All right, welcome back to Inside the Mind of Thursdays. I lost count of the episodes. I'm going to guess. I'm going to take a quick guess. I'm going to say 7? 7 or 8 for sure. I'm too lazy to think of it. But I've been gone a little bit. Like I said last time, not many people in the city. Not many people in the city to interview. You know, I got Ella still I need to interview, and then I got Luke Carter. Shout out. He'll probably be on next. We're going to get something going. But I had an idea since I wouldn't say I'm a man of great intelligence. I'm going to answer Google's 14 toughest questions to answer. So I was just thinking about this. I was on a road trip, and I was in the car, and I was like, that'd be a good little, what's the word? Just a good little hold me over episode until we get people back in the city. So if you want to hear me yap for an hour about life's great mysteries, which I'm not going to have any real answer or real facts or real insight on, stay with me. Okay, so the website I'm using is, I don't know, but it says there's 14 of them. So we'll start in order, and if there's one that I literally just know nothing about, we'll just try our best. So the first one is, why are there wars? I mean, I think that's just human nature. I don't really think that's, I mean, people can say like this day and age or whatever, but like there's been wars forever. I think just human conflict. I think ego, land I think it just comes down to three things. It's ego, land, and then I guess just power. I mean, I think before the modern age, like I think like Roman Empire, and you think Egyptians and all that kind of stuff, all the like the way older times. Once again, preface, not an expert. I would just say I think just power, ego, and just land. I think because now I really don't get why there's war. If I'm being honest with you, there's enough resources for the majority of the world. I mean, obviously there's poor countries and obviously stuff like that, but it's not like how it was in those days where it's like, man, I'm not going to be able to feed my children. Like I don't see why countries like Russia, countries like China, America, I don't get it. Like I think if you're like an impoverished country, then war makes sense because it's like you need to fight for resources. But if you're in America and you're in China and you're in Russia, okay, maybe not Russia, but you know what I mean? Like the bigger countries, it's like, do you really need war to live? It kind of just seems to me like people just don't, I don't know. I think just ego and power, I think, is the root of all evil. Hot take, put it in the quote book, fellas. At what time? Mark that at 2 minutes and 47 seconds of the podcast. The roots of all evil is power and ego. If people left their power and left their ego at the doors, life would be so much easier. Life would be so much safer and happier. Okay, that was the first one. Once again, I don't know nothing about nothing. So, yeah. Why do spouses divorce is the second question. There's also like a whole laundry list of things I'm supposed to read about it, but I'm not going to because why? This is my podcast. I can do what I want. Why do people get divorced? I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think the big one is just people. It really takes a long time to know someone. Like, I mean, contrary to belief, you never really fully know someone ever. Like ever. You can think you know them, but in the reality, you don't really know anyone ever. So it could just become after 20 years, 15 years, 10 years of being with someone every single day, you see issues that you didn't really think were big in the beginning or even like midway through. You're like, this isn't that big of a deal. Like they'll change, and they never do. So I think that's a big one. I think people just don't really know what the other person is like really in life. Two, I think people don't have values anymore, really. Like I think goes back to the thing in the beginning where it's like people will marry somebody with different values than them, and then whenever those values are like get tested in like a life situation or like kids or something like that, it becomes very hard to switch someone's values, especially after you've been with them for 10 years. Now, if you were dating them for like a year and you're like, hey, these values I think are kind of, I want to see if we can like kind of redefine our values, then it's easier. But I think if you're like 20 years in and the kid comes home from the birthday party and something happens and they're like, whatever, and your wife and your spouse are on two different wavelengths and you're like, I need to discipline them this way, but no, we got to do it this way. Then I think it just becomes a big anger of like, I want you to be how I am. And yeah, another one I think kind of all in one is just people kind of ignore red flags for too long. I think you can put up with a lot of stuff for a long time, I feel like, in just life in general, even in friendships. But I think, especially in relationships, people will brush over red flags in the beginning because they're so infatuated with the person. They're so in love with the person, of like new person, new experiences, all that kind of stuff. And then the longer you're in the relationship, the red flags start to become bigger problems. Now, there are some red flags where it's like, okay, this just isn't a big deal. But if one of the red flags is like they have a super short temper, they get really angry all the time, they're not compassionate towards your friends or your family, they're selfish. Those are things where it's like, okay, that is reason to be a concern. But if they're red flags like they stay up really late, or like they're not the best texter, it's like, okay, like red flag, I guess. That's just how some people are. It's like I mean, a red flag for me is that just like I'm super routine based. So if like my partner, which is like Ella, is like doesn't like that, I don't know. She may. I have no idea. I think she does. But it's like if she didn't like that, is that really a red flag, or is that just we have different views on that? Like if I was like, hey, Ella, I'm waking up every single morning at this exact time, and I can't do anything else about that, is she gonna be like, well, I can't be with you anymore? No, because that's not that's not a big enough red flag to be like, oh shit, like let me reconsider all this. That's more of just like a different preference in routines, I guess. So I think people need to differentiate. I don't know how to say that word. Whatever. People need to get like change between red flags that are like detrimental to their relationship and red flags that are like, okay, that's just them, and it may not be how I am, but that's them, and that's why I love them. So I think those are the big three: is just not knowing them really. And then, of course, life can happen. Like, someone loses a parent. Someone loses, like, something important to them. Losing jobs, stuff like that can get too much. So I think it's just a big thing of just suck. But I think that's our generation as well, because I think social media and all that kind of stuff just not a good recipe. Just advice to people out there as a 21-year-old man who's not fucking doesn't know anything. Don't ignore the red flags, and also don't think you can change someone too much. You can change them, but not in the way you think. Like, most people are set in their ways. So it's like if you're not happy with the way they are set in those ways, then you're kind of shit out of luck, you know? You kind of got to either be with them or not. That one I have a little bit more of an opinion on than the first one, because I don't know about wars. Third one. Oh God, wait a minute. Who decides which of the divorced parents their child will live with? Man, okay. I guess the same thing with divorce. I think it just depends on the situation. Like if one spouse is super aggressive and super like not a good parent, then obviously go with the other one. But I think if it's mixture, how old's the kid? Like if the kid's 12 or 13, be like, hey, me and your mom or me and your dad are getting divorced. We're not going to be living together anymore. Like, who do you feel that you would want to stay with? It also is like, hey, dad's moving 20 minutes this way. Mom's moving central. Kid's school is central. Kid's friends are central. Don't make him pick up his life. I think it's just a big factor of think of the kid first, not the parents, because they're making the decision, not the kid. The kid had no say in any of this. So I think if you accommodate him or her, I don't know why I'm saying him all the time, but like accommodate whoever the child is first, then you have a better chance the child will recover from it, I think. Because if you go and like you're living with me and you can never see your mom again, that just builds resentment. I think if the kid's old enough, I even think 12 would be too young. I think if the kid's old enough to where it's like they know what's going on in the world, even to a degree, you should talk to them about it and let them decide it. And if they're not old enough, that they're like 6 or 7 or something like that, then go off of financial, family, security, like income, housing, all that kind of stuff. Go off of like who can provide the best life for the child moving forward in the household. And if it's 50-50, then I mean, I don't know. I really don't know about that one. But I think there's always something that will sway it the other way. I think it's just you got to find what that something is. So that's what I'd say about that. Okay. Interesting. This is an interesting one. Why do people have to grow old? Oh man, now we're getting deep, fellas. I'm here by myself in my game room with my cat. So, gonna really get into this one. Why do people grow old? I mean, it's just life, isn't it? I think the beauty of life is knowing that you're gonna die. Because if you live every day and you're like one day randomly, it's gonna all be over and I'm never gonna see anybody have no more experiences ever again. It kind of releases you in some sort of way of like stress, anxiety, and like anything really, because none of it matters. Like in the grand scheme of it, nothing you do matters because you're going to die. Everyone you know is going to die. In a sad way, that's like, damn, you can look at that and be like, fuck, that's so depressing. What's the point? But you can also look at it as like, okay, oh, Pebbles is losing her mind because of something. You can also look at it as like, hey, I'm going to die. Why worry about why worry about this test? Like if I pass, I pass. If I fail, I fail. Like I think people make things that aren't life and death. Like traffic, life and death. Missing something, life or death. Getting a bad grade on something, missing out on like a fun night, life or death. When in reality, it's like nothing you do is that serious. Nothing in reality, because we're all gonna die. So I think if you take it in that way and like be like, okay, what is really a priority for me? I have a whiteboard in my room I look at every morning, and there's like 5 regrets of people of people on their deathbeds, and all of it is just like be happier, do stuff for myself, keep in touch with friends. Like it's nothing about like don't work as hard. It's nothing like materialistic. There's nothing on the board that's like, I wish I made more money. I wish I bought this car. No, it's just like I wish I made more memories and I wish I was myself more. So I think the reason why do people have to grow old is just because if you never grow old, then there's no point to do anything. If you're going to stay 20, 21, even like 30 years old, 30, 40 for the rest of your life, there's no like drive there because there's no point. You're going to live the whole life. You're going to live forever. You have time. You have an infinite amount of time, but you don't. That's why growing old is so important in everyone's life. Okay. And then right into it, we can piggyback off it. Why do people have to die? Same thing. If you knew you were never going to die, there's no point to do anything. I think I've hit this one enough, but y'all get the gist. Is just I think everything we do would be so much more pointless if we lived forever, I think. Because then you'd have time to do everything, but you don't have time to do everything. So just every now and then kind of sit back and think and be like, is this really something that I should be stressing about this much, or is it not going to matter? Or should I just make up that friendship that I've lost, or should I tell that person how I feel about them or stuff like that? Because in reality, it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at all. So keep that in mind, everybody. If you're watching this video and you want to tell somebody something, tell them. Why not? You're about to die anyway. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows? But I'm saying, do what you want to do in life. Okay, more death. I mean, holy God, are we fucking depressed here or what? What happens when you die? Well, I think there's 2 theories. 2 things that are realistic. Either A, you do what happens before you were born. You just weren't there. Like, I was watching this video. I forgot who it was. But it was like, do you miss 1980? Why would you miss 1980? You weren't born. Like, I don't have any like memories of like the 90s or the 80s. So I don't like miss that I missed out on those times. Like, I'm not like upset that I didn't get to see the moon landing, or I didn't get to see Jordan be a fraud and cheat all his way to like I don't miss those times because like I wasn't there. Like I'm going to like I think people think they're missing out on something after death, but it's like you are living right now. This is your time to have the life that you're gonna miss whenever you're dead. It's like it's not a sad thing. It's more of just that's just how it is, and you can either look at it as I'm gonna die, everything's so depressing, or look at it as I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be able to do all these things every single day. And yeah, so I think either that, back on track, either nothing happens, like either you're just in black, pitch black, you don't even know you're there, like you don't know what's going on, you're just not existing anymore. And you're not like angry, sad, mad, happy, you're just gone, which is pretty fucking scary to think about. But you wouldn't care because you're not here anymore. Like, you're not a thing. You're just gone. That could happen. Or there's a being up there, which is, I think, more likely because, dude, how in the fuck is any of this happening without a higher power? Like, I refuse to believe that the galaxy, all the stars, the planets, the smallest animal, all of that is just nature. This energy that is, no. There has to be something out there that is doing the thing that is making us live. So I think people need the idea of an afterlife to stay sane, to stay sane. Shout out Chris Webber. Because if you are hard set on after I die there's nothing, it's really sad and depressing to think about. But if you think there's something after life for me that's bigger than this, it makes it less of an end-all be-all, and it's kind of like, let me improve my life on earth so that afterwards I have this happiness, eternal life, Jesus, Buddha, whoever you believe in. But I personally think it's either you go into blackness and nothing happens, or you go into heaven and you just are happy with everyone that you've lost and all the times you've had, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just you're in happy bliss, all that stuff. Okay. And then does it hurt to die? It depends. Okay, Pebbles is, I don't know if y'all can hear, but she's losing her mind looking at shadows right now. Anyway, does it hurt when you die? I don't think so. I mean, I don't see why it would. Like, it depends on how you die. Like, if you die from burning, duh. But I think if it's just like you're dying and you're dying and that's it, I don't think that hurts. I do. No, I don't. Let me knock on wood. Hold on. This chair I'm sitting on is wood. I want to know what it feels like to be like in the last days of your life. Because I wonder what feeling you get. I wonder if it's gratefulness that you were alive. I wonder if it's regret for things you didn't do or things you didn't say. Like, I wonder if in 60 years I'm going to come back to when I'm in college and regret not doing something that I should have done. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm going to think of whenever I'm 40, like when I'm about to die, I think of like when I'm 40, I'm like, man, I wish I would have left that job, or I wish I would have contacted this person or stuff like that, Or I wonder if it's just you're just there with everyone that loves you, if you're lucky, and you're just sitting there and you're just like, this is it for me. Like, I've had my life. I've had fun. This is it. So, I don't know. I really do wonder, because I've read some stuff where it's like some people are like, right before they die, they're like really at peace with everything that they've done. And then there's other people that are like have regrets. And I think that just goes back to everything that I've been saying in this podcast is just like, do what makes you happy and be successful in anything you do. It's just like, don't half-ass anything, because then you won't have any regrets in life. Like, the goal of life is to not have regrets, I think. And I think that's how you make death not as bad. I'm so sorry, Pebbles. I'm like, when I move my phone, like the light's shining and she's going for it. I'm done. I'm moving off of the dead thing. There's so many. There's just, all of these are about death. It's just like, what's heaven? Like, what's hell? Like, I mean, we could go on that one for years. Okay, I'm gonna go to a different website. Here we go. 10 hardest questions to answer in the world. I think these are all going to be kind of the same thing. Maybe not. Okay, here we go. Do aliens exist is number 4 on this, and it has a big thing of the alien right there. Do aliens exist? Define the word alien for me, Google. I think it just depends on what you consider an alien. Like, are you talking about an extraterrestrial being from like 60 million years away that are like little-brained people who are here to murder us? I don't think that's happened. But I do think it's a little naive to believe that in the infinite amount of galaxies that are around us and the infinite amount of planets that we never have discovered, that there's not a species more advanced than us that can find out where we live, find out everything about it. I think that's naive. Do I think they visited us? Yes and no. I think that they're, I don't know. I don't know if they visited us yet, honestly, but I do think that there are aliens in the world. By aliens, I just mean like a different species, not human, not on Earth. Not like the freakazoid things they're trying to murder us. And I do genuinely think that there is another universe out there where we are all the same person, but we just do different things. Like I'm dressed this exact same way, except I'm not making a podcast right now. I'm making food. Or there's another universe where I have the exact opposite characteristics as I do now. Like I'm not tall, I'm short. Like I'm not in shape, I'm fat. I don't like sports. I like insert nerd activity. I'm not in school, I'm in blank. Like I think there's a universe out there with infinite amount of me's doing infinite amount of different things. There's just so much out there we don't know that there's no way you can't believe there's something else out there. I don't know. I guess I don't know. What the fuck? Okay. What is the nature of time? I'll read this little part so you can get a little excerpt. We know that time is years, months, and days, but how does it all start? What makes it, and are we capable of measuring the absolute of time? Is one of the hardest questions to answer because it certainly is just not about our clocks. I think time is just a concept that we made. I don't think pebbles or like the insect outside knows time in like quote unquote. Like I think they just think the sun goes up and the sun goes down. Like I think that's time for them. But for us, there's like times of the year, times like memories in time, like I don't know. That's a hard one. But I think time is just something that we created because if there was no time and there was no calendar and there was no dates and stuff like that, then for one, history would be evaporated. There'd be no chance to ever think of anything. And also I think time is just a way to tell stuff. Simple as that. You know what time things close. You know what time things open. That's all it is. It's not like a end all be all thing. I think just a number. That's all it is, I think. What is the ultimate What is the ultimate fate of the universe? Man. Hold on, let me see how I'm going. I'm only going for 22 minutes and I've answered all the hard questions of life. Man, I'm really like that. Okay, what is the ultimate fate of the universe? I think the universe, like everything, all being, like everything in the ether and whatnot, I think eventually will come to an end. But just by, I think, our creators, like our creator above, whoever he is or she, like demand. Now, if you had to ask me how it's going to happen, I'll go Earth because the universe is just so vast. We have no idea. How do I think Earth will? Let's go even shorter. The human race and Earth. I think the human race will either. There's three options here, fellas. That mean it gets so close to y'all. I'll go most likely to least likely. So I think most likely is we are just going to not care about the planet so much and get to the point where it's just uninhabitable. Like we just can't live here anymore. That's not as close as I think people think it is. Like I think that's probably decades not even decades, like generations and generations and generations and generations. Like I think like 20 generations in the future, I think, will there not be a like Earth. So I think that's most likely is that we don't treat the Earth the right way and it just ends up just not being able to function. I think second most likely is we find another planet before then and then we can just get everybody out. I read this book called, what's it called? Helldivers. And it's about this colony on Mars where they like sent people on Earth to Mars to colonize Mars so that because Earth is like dead at this point. Like they've never been to Earth. Like it's still, people are still inhabiting it, but it's on its last legs. So they've sent people up there, the young people to go colonize it. Anyway, so I think something like that could happen where it's like eventually people just realize that you can't live on Earth. We got to colonize X planet or X solar system and go from there. And I think out of left field, boom, out of left field hot take, just the nukes eventually just everybody, like there's a couple maniacs in office and they just nuke everything and then our world's cooked. Because if you think about it, I'm going to put some on there real quick. If you think about it, If America, China, North Korea, and Russia were in a war and one of those motherfuckers was like, yeah, I'm just going to press the button and send them all out, we're done. There's nothing we can do. There's no missile. There's no underground bunker. There's nothing. We are done. If all four of those countries decide, let's just send every nuke to the other country, we're done. That's it. That is it. There's no coming back. We'd have to restart civilization. And that's over for us. And even then, it's like the world would be nuclear and it would just be all the plants would die and all this stuff. And there just would be no hope for us ever and we're cooked. So if that happens, that's probably like, if anything, the closest, like not the most realistic, but the thing that could happen in our lifetime is that. Someone just presses a button and we're done for. Crazy. Could happen. Okay. Number 9. What is the meaning of life? I think, honestly, I don't think this is really a crazy question. I think people look into it too much. The meaning of life is just being happy. Like, and not even like being happy isn't like all the time being happy. It's more of just in the moment doing what you enjoy doing. Obviously, you're going to have to work. Obviously, you're going to have like rough times and stuff. But I think if you have a set of values, like things that are in your life that you enjoy, like for me, like my friends, my cat, the gym, all my hobbies, all this stuff, and just like a purpose of like moving forward in life in those aspects, not even like a career or like anything like that, like just improving friendships, making memories, traveling, doing stuff like that, like just enriching your life, I think is the meaning of life. I don't think there's a set thing. It's like making X amount of money, meaning of life, or doing X amount of things. I think it's just doing whatever you, person watching this podcast, wants to do, whether it's writing a book, whether it's doing karate or whatever. It can be something small. It's just like the meaning of life is things that you enjoy doing. To you, not everyone can have the same thing. So I think it's a pretty basic one. It's just do what you enjoy, and it's not that difficult, or it is difficult because of money, but stuff like that I think is a pretty easy one. Okay, any other ones in here? Because that's 20 questions. Oh, here we go. Answered life's 25. Here we go. Okay, this is a good one. This one this one will make you think. How long are we in? Okay, we're only 27 minutes. We got a couple more. Well, I'll make this a quick one. We'll go like 35 minutes. This is a tough one. Can love really last a lifetime? Man, that's deep, fellas. I'll say this. I think if you go into this, like your relationships, just accepting the person and accepting their flaws and accepting that like nothing's going to be perfect and accepting that all this stuff, yes, I think you can. The hard thing about loving someone forever is that you have to really love them in the beginning, because you can't just love their looks. You can't just love blank, 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 insert thing that everyone loves about a young relationship. You have to really love the person and like their drive and like their ambition and their goals and their values and their whatever, because there's like 3 stages of love, I think. It goes the beginning stage whenever you meet the person and you're infatuated with everything because you don't know them. You don't know them at all, really, unless they're like your friend. But even then, you don't know them on like a lover level. Whoa. I think it's just like, that's the beginning where it's like you just don't know them and just, God, everything you're telling me is so great and all this stuff. And then there's a second level, whenever you know them to an extent, and then there's problems. There's like, they're not as communicative as you thought they'd be, or they don't come up with ideas as quick as you'd think, or stuff. It's like whatever, like a problem that you have with them. Then it either goes into, I don't love this person as much as I thought I did, let me back up. Or it goes, this makes me love you even more, that we are able to have these issues and still love each other and all that stuff. If you can get back past that point of, we're going to have problems and you're going to make me upset and I'm going to make you upset and we're going to fight, but I still love you and we can still get through it, then you're pretty good. You're pretty set up for success. Because then you have a safe boundary of like, hey, we're going to fight, we're going to argue, but we know that it's not the end of the world. It's just an argument. That, and the third is like way later on in life, whenever it's like you have kids and the kids move away, and then it's back to y'all alone, and it's like, man, we haven't been alone with each other in 20 years. Do we still love each other? Is there still the spark there? Do we still want to hang out? Blah, 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 blah. So I think, yes, love can really last a lifetime. I think you have to find the right person, and that person, y'all need to both love each other, because it can be one way. You can love someone way more than the other person loves you. I think that y'all both need to be infatuated with each other in every single aspect, not just physically, not just emotionally, like in everything y'all do. You need to love them, because then that will never fade. Because if it's your attraction or whatever, it's like that's going to fade over time. Like in 70 years, your wife is going to be wrinkly. Like, I'm sorry. That's just truth. But if you love them as a human, it's not going to matter. Okay. Pebbles is losing her mind. Okay, here we go. This is a good one because I have a hot take. Can a marriage survive betrayal? Depends. It really depends. I think if you get cheated on, man, let me sit with my thoughts real quick, fellas. This is deep. If you're still watching, I'm impressed because we're getting deep, fellas. Leave your thoughts in the comments on what you think. Man, can a marriage... I think if you are secure in yourself and you are willing to accept that the person you're with found somebody else like the same amount of attractiveness as you while y'all were together, and y'all can work it out to the point where you accept, because I think what people get wrong about cheating is like they try to act like it was a mistake, which it is, and don't get to the root of it. Because it's like if your wife cheats on you, it's not just as simple as she's a shitty person and that's it. There's something, unless she genuinely just is a shitty person. And I think this is what I'll say. I think 9 out of 10 times, no. If someone cheats on you or someone is unfaithful, you leave. But I think that one time that it is like reasonable to get back with them, I think you need to come to the conclusion that there was something that you weren't doing that led up to it, and also not make it your fault. Like, it just takes a lot of work, I think. I don't know. It's just, you have to really love the person, and you have to know that the person really loves you. And I think it's hard because if someone does that to you, they obviously don't love you as much as you love them. So it's just hard. Like, I think if you are able to handle that and you aren't going to hold that grudge in y'all's relationship, because the thing you can't do is you can't continue the grudge. Once it's done and once you've forgiven the person and once you've said it's okay and y'all love each other and whatever, you can't keep it in the relationship. Like, you can't use it in an argument, or you can't use it to, like, you have to go back fully or it's not going to work. So I think 9 out of 10 times, no, you got to leave. But I think there are times when you can go back to the person. It's really hard. And I think you have to really love the person. And that's not always the case in that one. This is such a random one. I think I'm going to answer this because it's so not deep. Why does summer zoom by and winter drag on forever? I think just because there's more things to do in the summer, I think. At least for me, off school. All the fellas are back. Water, go swimming, stuff like that. And I think in the winter, it's more of just like indoors, cold, don't want to go do stuff. So I think it just feels longer because you're not doing anything. You're not doing as much stuff as you are in the summer. So I think that's why it kind of flies by and the winter doesn't. This is kind of funny. Okay, I'm not answering that one. By what age should you know what you want to do with your life? Man, I don't think there's a set age. I think there's a cutoff to where you need to do something with your life, but that doesn't mean you have to know what you want to do with your life. Like, I think once you're out of college or you realize you're not going to college, that's the time when you need to figure out something to do that you can live off of, whether that's being a waitress, being like working full-time at like a restaurant or something. It's the same thing, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a point where you realize, okay, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I need to get my life started. That's whenever I think you need to like start going. I think I still have like 2 or 3 years to figure out what I want to do. So it's like, but once that 2 or 3 years hits and I have no, and let's say I don't know, I have to get my life going. Like I can't just wait. I have to start things. Like I have to work, you know? So I think there's not really a cutoff limit to when you like need to figure out your life, but there's a cutoff limit when you need to start, I think. And I think that's usually like 23, 24, maybe even like, I think 23 is probably a good one when you're like, I need to start, my life is starting now. It's after college, whatever. Oh man. When is your future behind you? Same thing. I think if you're always chasing your goals and you're always chasing your dreams and they're never just controlling you and they're never like, I'm going to do this, but you never do it, then I think you can always live in the future. I think where people make mistakes is they think that if they don't obtain their dream immediately, then it's just over. Like, let's think of a dream of mine. Like my dream is to have a successful social media account or podcast or whatever. If I ever just stopped doing this, then I would give up on my dream. But even if I just do it for fun and I'm just like, whatever, like I don't really care, I'm still chasing my dream. I'm just not fulfilling it, I guess. I think a lot of people get those things confused. Like you can chase a dream and not fulfill it, and that's okay. But once you give up and you stop trying, then you can feel bad. But if you're doing it and you're still chasing it and whatever, that's not a thing to be ashamed of. Just sometimes life doesn't work like that. But you shouldn't be ashamed of that. But so I think as you just keep chasing it, you'll be good. Okay, here we go. Another one. This is fun. I think I should do this on your own. Do you have to love your job? I think if your job provides for you and you have other outlets in life, you don't have to love your job. Because I think a job is a necessary evil. But I think you can also go into it with the mindset of either A, I'm going to love my job and make no money, or I'm going to, because realistically, most people things that they love aren't going to make them a lot of money unless you just love being like a doctor, which I mean, some people do. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it's more realistic that someone loves something and it's not going to make them a lot of money than the other way around. So I think if you go into it and you're honest with yourself and you're like, I'm going to make X amount of money, but I'm going to have no free time. I'm going to not have time with my friends. I'm not going to have time with my family. I'm not going to have weekends off, but I'm going to make a shit ton of money. Is that worth it to you? Or on the other side, it's like, okay, I'm going to make enough, but I'm going to have a lot of time to go out with my friends, and I'm going to have a lot of time to meet people. I'm going to have a lot of time to go do stuff I enjoy. Like I can save up and go on a trip once a year and stuff like that. Is that more valuable to you, or is it being successful and making money? And I think there are jobs that are obviously in the middle that are like, I love doing this and I make a lot of money doing it. But I think you just kind of have to prioritize it. Like I think for me, I would much rather not make money and enjoy what I'm doing than the other way around. Because for one, I think people just don't know how to manage money. I think there's a lot of things that people spend on that they don't need to. And I think there's a lot of things that people don't spend their money on that they should. And I think there's just stuff that like you can live off of way more than you think. And also your life doesn't have to be luxurious. Like you don't need all this stuff, really, in all honesty. Like you don't. Like I'm lucky I have it, but in reality, like if all this shit went away and I didn't have all this stuff, like I would be fine. It's okay. Like you can still live life. So no, you don't need to love your job, but you could. Huh. What the hell? When do you take grandpa's car keys? Whenever the man's had too much to drink. That's when you know. Okay. How do you know when to end a friendship? This is a good one because this has happened recently in my life with some of my friends. Okay, not some of them, like just a couple. When it was hard to end the friendship, but I knew it was right to do. I think you should end the friendship whenever it becomes a hassle to be friends with them. And what I mean hassle is not like they're annoying, because I mean that's everybody's annoying. You know what I mean? I think what I mean by a hassle is like it's becoming more like a chore to see them or like be around them than it is enjoyment. Like if every time you see someone they're just like in a bad mood, and they don't bring any value to your life, and they're just shitty all the time, like complaining, or they're like shitting on you, and they use you for whatever. Like I've had a friend, I've had a friend who literally did not give a fuck about me and just used me all the time. And it was like, I never realized it because I was in high school, but looking back on it, I was like, that dude didn't care about me at all. He cared about that I was always available, and I had a car that could take us places, and I had money and stuff like that. So he never cared about me. He just cared about what I brought, the friendship. And then I have other friends like Jason, Ryan, Michael, all of them that don't care about any of that. They care about me as a person, and they enjoy my company, and they enjoy just hanging out. Once your friendship gets from the point of I'm using you for something, and it becomes like, or the other way around, once it goes from, hey, we're friends, doesn't matter what we do, let's just hang out, to, oh, you don't want to go do this with me? You don't want to go drink with me? You don't want to go to this girl's house with me? Then we're not friends anymore. Or it's like, man, you loser. Like, come on, bro, that's whack. Then it's like, is that really your friend, or is that just somebody that you do those things with? And sometimes, like, I have friends that I just drink with and nothing else. That's fine. Like, that's not a bad thing to have. But if you're contemplating where it's like, is this person really my friend? Go into those, like, questions. It's like, do we do anything outside of just one thing? Do we ever talk about anything other than just this one thing? Or is it always just this? That's not really your friend. That's an acquaintance that you do things with. And the other thing is if it's just like becoming like a burden on you, when it's like, man, they're just really not the person I thought they were, and I don't think or they change values. Like if you have a friend that just changes their values all of a sudden, it's like they're not the same person as you were friends with. That's a valid reason to leave a friendship. I think there's a lot of things, but I think those are the main two. When it's like, okay, this isn't really my friend anymore. Can a half empty person become a half full person? 100,000%. I think it goes into all these questions. I think like once you just start looking at things from a different way, that sounds so corny. I know it does, where it's just like, oh, look at the half glass full, whatever. But genuinely, I think if you just start looking at things from a different perspective, and I think that comes from just discipline, doing stuff you don't enjoy doing, like finding things you do enjoy doing, finding hard things you would like do that like are enjoying. I think it just comes from a lot of repetition of stuff and learning about yourself. And most of the time people are negative because they're not okay with themselves, and they can't stomach the fact that they're not happy with themselves. So they find everything else in life to be mad at. I was that exact person. Like that was me. So that's why I'm saying that. It's like you get to a point where you just don't like yourself. And so instead of really sitting down and be like, man, I need to fix this, you kind of just make everything, like you make everything in your life something else's fault, whether it's a person's fault or a system's fault or whatever. So I think definitely you can change. I think it's just hard. I think you have to really sit with yourself and find out who you are and find out your values and stuff like that. And then it kind of takes time, but it happens. When do kids become an adult? I think the same thing. Whenever you realize that nobody is going to come help you, I think is whenever you become an adult. And that may take until you're 30. That may take until you're 50. That may take until you're 16. Once you realize that you are the only person that can really do anything about your life, and if you don't do anything, nobody will, then you kind of grow up and you're like, okay, shit, like I have to do these things. Like I have to care about my grades, or I have to care about my health, and I have to care about my relationships because nobody else is doing it for me. That's when I think you kind of graduate from being like, like life is just whatever, to being like, oh fuck, like let me actually kind of not be a dumbass. And I think it's kind of hard. I think it's just you can kind of mess it up and be like, do it too soon or do it too late or whatever. But I think most people kind of have enough systems around them, like friends, family, to set them up to where it's like they don't have to grow up too fast. Some people do. Like some people that are not as privileged as me and some people I know are like, they got to grow up really fast. But I think for most people, it's like you kind of have that buffer period in college or like late high school to kind of buffer into being an adult and not really being an adult. Stuff like that. I'm not a girl, so I can't answer that one. How are we? How are we? We're 44. Okay, let me get one more. This is a good one to end it off on. And then we'll go on that, and then I want y'all to think about this for a second. Why is it so hard to say you're wrong? I have a theory. I think it's so hard to say that you're wrong because people, including me, take their opinions and take their statements as personal. So, like, for example, if I had a debate with somebody on sports and I was, like, talking about, like, LeBron MJ, and someone didn't agree with my take, in my subconscious, I'm taking that as them saying I'm wrong. Like, Mitchell, your ideas and your, like, thoughts are wrong, instead of the idea that I have is wrong. And I think once people kind of disconnect themselves from their thoughts and disconnect themselves from their wrongdoings, it's really easy to realize when you're doing wrong. It's just really, like, it's that process that's hard. Once you get past that barrier of, like, disconnecting yourself from, like, your actions and your thoughts in that moment, and you're like, fuck, I really am being a dick right now. And you could either do one of two things. You can either be like, man, I'm being a dick right now, but fuck that person, they were wrong. Or you can sit and be like, man, I'm really being a dick right now. Why? Oh, because I've had a long day. Oh, because I'm tired. Oh, because this is not going right. Why am I being, like, has this person done anything to me? No, I'm just being rude to them for no reason. Then you can kind of really pick it apart and be like, fuck, okay, I'm in the wrong. I'm man enough or woman enough to say I'm in the wrong. That's where it comes from. I think it stems from self-reflection in moments and in past moments. I think it just comes from trial and error. I think a lot of times I've been wrong and I refuse to admit it, and it kind of just, you know, you can usually always tell by how you're acting if you're wrong or not. If you're super defensive, super, like, angry, super, like, that's not true, then you're most likely in the wrong, unless it's genuinely, like, just a lie. But most of the time, people will give you valid points, and if you're super defensive off rip, you're probably in the wrong because you know they're right, and you don't want them to see those things about you because you hate them about you, or vice versa, or whatever. So I think it's so hard to say that you're wrong because you kind of take it personally, and you take it as you are wrong, like you as the human being are wrong. Oh, man, I am not intellectual enough to answer all those questions. But, fellas, if you enjoyed this, there's so many other harder questions to answer in the universe. Maybe we'll get the guests on and go through them again. But if you enjoyed this, leave a like. Comment if you enjoyed stuff like this. Also, comment timestamps of questions and your answers even, or whatever. If you have a different opinion, whatever. Whatever you like, fellas. I'm an open book, as they say. But always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. And let me leave you all with this last thing. There she is. She's been doing that the whole episode. All right, fellas. Well, thank y'all.